Hello Internet, and welcome back to my Big Damn TV Geek blog. This week I'm excited to talk about the awesomeness of Orange is the New Black Season 2. I've talked a ton about how much I loved this show in Season 1, and I always worry when I fall in love with a show in its first season that Season 2 is only going to lead to disappointment. That was not the case with Orange is the New Black. Season 2 maintained the high level of writing and acting and great stories and was enjoyable for all 13 episodes. So I'm just going to talk about some of my favorite parts of Season 2, as well as a couple of things that didn't necessarily work for me. Obviously, spoiler warning if you haven't finished Season 2 yet. First off, I actually read the book that the series is based on in between Seasons 1 and 2, and I found it really interesting to be able to kind of compare and contrast what actually happened and how they're portraying it on TV. There were a couple of big story elements that were straight out of the book this year. The trip to Chicago is a thing that actually happened. She had to go to Chicago to testify. Piper's grandmother dying is a thing that actually happened, but the real Piper didn't even get furlough. So I thought it was really kind of interesting to see how they handled that kind of stuff on the TV side as opposed to what actually happened. It's also just really neat to see how the characters are portrayed after reading about the actual people that were clearly the initial idea for many of them. So that kind of put everything in perspective. As far as actual Season 2 story, my favorite was Poussey. She just had a terrific arc this season. You know, coming into Season 2, we really only know her as Tasty's best friend. And we come to realize she's got some unrequited feelings for her. And then V shows up and really screws everything up, because Poussey is just not willing to be part of the smuggling operation and dealing heroin to the inmates, and doesn't like how Tasty and the other girls are acting around V, and she's not afraid to stand up and tell V that, even when it gets her beat up pretty badly by Suzanne. So it was really nice to see it all kind of come back around in her corner at the end of the season, and to Tasty to say, hey, I'm sorry, you were right, and the other girls to also say, hey, you were right, V is a psycho. So I loved her arc, and also loved her flashback episode. She had a very, very good, heartbreaking flashback episode where we got to see her life as an army brat and how she handles relationships and things like this that really fleshed out her character really well. Samara Wiley was just amazing throughout the season, and I'm so glad they've upped her to a series regular for Season 3, because I hope we get to see a lot more of Tasty and Poussey. I mentioned Poussey's flashback was a highlight, but there were a lot of really great flashbacks this year. We had really, really ridiculously well-casted younger versions of the characters in the Tasty flashback and the Suzanne flashback. That was very, very fun. We had Lorna's flashback, which was so surprising. We find out that Christopher, that she's been talking about since day one of this show, is not her fiancé, but some guy she went on one date with, got obsessed with, and stalked, and all of this stuff. And that really changes that character significantly when you find out that, like, oh, she's not quite right mentally. I also really loved Rosa's flashback. This is a character that we knew basically nothing about coming into this season, other than she was on chemo, had cancer. And they did a wonderful job, particularly with the flashback of her off having her bank robbing adventures, making that character someone you really deeply cared about and felt awful for when you find out she only has 6 weeks to live in the finale. So lots of terrific flashbacks again, and that remains one of my favorite parts of this show. This may seem like a weird thing to say, but another one of my favorite parts of this season was V. I'm always down for a good big bad, and V was amazingly portrayed by Lorraine Toussaint and was a perfect foil for all of our Litchfield inmates this year. We got to see a lot of new layers from Tasty based on her relationship with V. We got to kind of throw that whole dynamic with all of the inmates off just by her being around. V's presence was what kicked Red back into gear after kind of wallowing for a while over losing her kitchen, and Red having a foe is way better than Red not having a foe. So that was really great, and it's just so much more interesting to have a real, true, evil presence that you want to see taken down. And believe me, I cheered like a crazy person when Rosa ran her down with the fan at the end of the season. So satisfying, and that's the mark of a true bad guy. I could go on forever about the stuff I love about this show, but a couple of other small things I liked. I liked the way Morello described Toy Story. That was very, very fun. It makes me laugh really hard that Caputo is in a band called Side Boob. I really liked that Piper kind of faded into the background in the ensemble a little bit this year. I think that was terrific for the dynamics on the show. I liked the old ladies, the Golden Girls. I thought they were great, and I loved the way they worked with Red, even though it broke my heart when Jimmy got sent out on compassionate release, which is bullshit. And I liked Brooke So-So, mostly because that name makes me giggle. So much fun to go around this year. Now clearly this is a show I adore, but there were one or two things in season 2 that didn't quite work for me. The first is Larry, because Larry is the worst. We all agree Larry is the worst, right? I didn't especially care what he was up to, even when he was still with Piper in season 1. So now that they're not together anymore, I just don't want to spend time with the guy. All due respect to Jason Biggs, who's doing a fine job with the part, Larry is boring and annoying. And now that he's boring, annoying, and banging Piper's best friend, he's also a douchebag, and I have no interest in any of that. It just made me mad. So I could really just do away with Larry and be perfectly happy. The only other story I didn't really care for this season is the Daya and Bennett pregnancy storyline. I like Daya and I like Bennett, but together they can be kind of annoying. I get that Daya is feeling like she doesn't have options and she's less than he is because she's locked away and his kid's life is going to be really screwed up, which, spoiler alert, it totally is. But I also don't know what she's expecting him to do about it, besides get himself thrown in jail, which doesn't seem like a great idea either. And Bennett is kind of a stammering moron a lot of the time, which is not super entertaining to watch. So I could just do away with all of their emo baby drama and be very happy. So that is my take on Orange is the New Black Season 2. What did you guys think? Did you have a particular episode you really liked, a character you really liked, or a character that really drove you crazy? Let me know in the comments. As always, please like and share this video, subscribe to my channel so you can keep on watching my videos. You can follow me on Twitter at BigDamnTVGeek, and there's a link to my blog in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.